Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not to be considered a public community meeting. There's time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda item and marks the public. Roll call.
Mrs. Detour. Here. Mr. Douglas.
Here.
Mr. Kachowski.
Here.
Dr. Phelps.
Here.
Mr. Thorson.
Here. Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Roll call.
Who made the original motion? Mr. Douglas.
Yes.
Mr. Kachowski.
Yes.
Dr. Phelps.
Yes.
Mr. Thorson.
Yes.
Mrs. Detour. Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for October 13th, October 20th special meeting, and October 21st special meeting? Second. Okay. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Douglas.
Yes.
Mr. Kachowski.
Yes.
Dr. Phelps.
Yes.
Mr. Thorson.
Yes.
Mrs. Detour. Yes.
Remarks to the public. Please note all persons wishing to address the board have a 5-minute limitation. Please state your name and address. Now, let's say that we have a lot of people here in consideration that there's a 30-minute time frame. So if you can say your piece a little faster, it gives other people a chance to talk. We did do a sign up. I have Doug Bleacher from 13916 Fox Hollow in Russell.
I didn't go to West G schools, so the on-off switch is when it is. If I had, I would be more technically proficient. I'd like to talk with you about how to simplify the open enrollment question. Financially, open enrollment is a no-brainer. The state gives us millions of dollars to more than pay for it. Also, just imagine the difficulty in asking for a new levy if we curtailed open enrollment and spurned all that state cash. Some would ask the WestGBrd kids living outside the district to move here. And that'd be fine. They can live on my street. I want them as neighbors. But even if all the kids moved here, we'd still have to educate them, but without that, millions of dollars in state support. Some ask, are we running a community or a regional district? Obviously, it's a community district. But we want it to be the best it can be. And what better way than to add a good dose of open enrollment, because someday all these pupils are going to be working out there. Several of you have asked me the question, what is the number? What is the ideal open enrollment number? Let's make that simple. Look at a picture of a class in a WestGBrd school. And the teacher is terrific. And the kids are all dialed in. And they're asking questions and answering questions and asking more. And there is, and the teachers are teaching them, and the kids are learning. And there's an enthusiasm and electricity in the room that you can feel. Okay, this is the perfect classroom. Except that out of the corner of your eye, you see a desk and a chair in the third row over by the window. And the chair is empty. And the silence coming from that chair is very loud. And the chair is very alone. Now I'd like you to look out the window with the power of farsight. Look down the road, miles down the road, to another district in another city, and there's a school there, and in that school a boy. And that boy's been bullied, and he's been shoved down the stairway. And he's at the bottom of the steps, all alone. That chair and that class need that boy. And that boy needs that chair. Who are we to say he can't have it? People may not remember what is said here, but they'll never forget what we do here with regards to our kids and our neighbors' kids, and kids across the street and down the street and on the next street and the next street, because they're all just kids. And it is that simple. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Megan Petronsky, 12145 West Shiloh in Chesterland. Good evening. I want to welcome Karen Pendler. I think this is my first meeting where you're sitting as treasurer. I've heard great things, so thank you for joining us. I'm here to speak tonight about my concern over the school board's lack of communication and foresight regarding open enrollment. First, I will address my concerns of communication. If I recall correctly, the people from Burgess and Burgess were slated to give their report on open enrollment last spring, but as you know, at that meeting, which was very long, they were bumped. I'm surprised that they were never invited to reschedule, and that report was never reported to the public. The decision you make tonight as board members could end up costing the taxpayers big money. This is not some decision over whether or not to allow lacrosse to be a varsity sport. It is one that has dire consequences for homeowners, and I think that as public servants, it is your obligation to do everything you can to ensure that you are representing the true views of the community. I know that there are passionate people on both sides of this that may be turning your heads, but what about the other group, those uninformed or undecided about how they feel? I'll take my own street, for example. There are 9 houses on my street. And I'm probably the only one who really even knows a little bit about what's going on. I've been waiting on a public forum where all of the choices are laid out so everyone can see them and be able to form their own opinions based on factual information. I recently heard there were some small coffee groups held at Arabica, but I'm not sure how and to whom those were advertised. Now I will address foresight. Everyone knew that the open enrollment decision was not fully settled in your minds last spring. So why were plans to review the Burgess report with the public not rescheduled? Or if you disagreed with that report, then why wasn't another method of gaining community feedback put in place in the summer or early fall for that matter? How do you know how this community feels? I feel that once again the stalling and disorganization of the board is backing us into a corner where a decision has to be made right now, tonight, without having all of the pertinent information and feedback from the community who deserves to have their voices heard. And I'm just very discouraged that this pattern keeps happening. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jack Litat, and I'm on 16258 Claire Detroit Road, for Burton, Ohio. I'm an open enrollment student, and here are my thoughts on what's happening. This is not a private school here at OSG. This is a public school. It is a school that, by definition, pertains to the concerns of the people as a whole. Everyone has the right to an education at a public school. Being from outside of the district, I realize that it is a privilege to be a part of the West Geauga School District. And this privilege has by no means been squandered. I'm an open enrollment student, and I know that many of you know that already. But here I am, thanking the school district and the faculty at West Geauga for giving us the open enrollment students, the opportunity to be a part of West Geauga schools for as long as we have. This school district has been the second home to several hundred students over the years and has been one of the best experiences of my life attending here. I hope that the actions taken by the students today have opened up a new perspective on this issue. Open enrollment isn't simply an economic issue or an educational issue or an issue of oversized classes. For the students of West Geauga, the issue of open enrollment hasn't been any of the above. These open enrollment students, whom you can't tell apart from the district students, are tied to the district. We have been bound for years to the school district by love of the educational environment, love for the friendships forged between the students and the faculty, and the love for the community around the school. Ending open enrollment for the years to come would unnecessarily destroy and devastate all the attachments between the in and out of district students. It would be an abominable shame to lose such a significant part of the best, most supporting student bodies in the area. Board members, I ask you, please vote yes on open enrollment. The decision made today will not affect me directly, for I'm a senior and I'm graduating in June, but it will drastically change the lives of hundreds of aspiring students forever. I want these students, my closest of friends, to have the same opportunity that I've had, the opportunity to flourish at West Geauga schools. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Taylor Thornton. I live at 4812 Lindsay Lane, Richmond Heights, Ohio, and I am an open enrollment student. I stand before you all simply to admire some people and the hard work that they put in towards keeping this cause alive. At times, this has felt like an uphill battle, but many times throughout this battle, we've all felt discouraged and other times uplifted. So I'd just like to thank everyone who listened, everyone who spoke, and everyone who fueled our fire. Without everyone, we wouldn't be here today. There are few instances where people can truly say they've been united under one cause, and many of us in this room can. We have formed a union, one where the bonds are too strong to break, and if there's one thing that we can take away from tonight, it's just that. If we put our minds and energy towards a cause, we ultimately produce something beautiful. I end this short speech in the words of Dan Ketch. Let us rise above this nonsense. Let us be persuaded by facts, not opinions. And let us lift up into a unified moral standards so that all children may learn. And to make a better world and safer world, one student at a time.
Blake Andres, Chesterland resident, 7611 Oak Hill Drive. Thank you to the board and for those in attendance for allowing me just a few moments to speak. Let me share just two short sets of numbers with you. 2015 and 2027, two graduating classes, one on the cusp of making a critical leap, and the other at approximately half the size, just getting started. Let me give you one other set of numbers. 13%. 0.12%, 0.0014%, and 1 times 10 to the negative 5%. You know, the area is defined by Chester, Russell, and the small part of Chagrin, otherwise known historically as the Geauga School District, comprises just 54 square miles. It's a pretty tiny box. These boundaries, as a percentage of the total square miles in our county, the state of Ohio, the United States, and the world, have values that quickly decline from 13% to 1/10,000th of 1%. I respectfully ask the board, which worldview do you wish our children and our young adults to have when they leave the walls of West Geauga schools? One defined by a tiny box too small to measure, for one defined by the way we live, work, and play today in the 21st century. The student citizens of 2015 have chosen to grow with the support of family, schools, churches, and others. They no longer define themselves as the 1/10,000th of 1%. Their academic work and social lives are very different than most of us experienced when we were in their seats some years ago. They are not defined by tiny boxes, and everyone here deserves to share the credit in raising tomorrow's fine citizens, volunteers, and leaders. And I'm privileged to follow just a couple of them here at this podium this evening. When the class of 2015 does leave this place of learning in just a few short months, and they continue their venture into young adulthood, be it they choose public service, employment in a local business, post-secondary education, their fellow employees, soldiers, students, teachers, and customers will not be defined by an area of 54 square miles and 1 times 10 to the negative 5th percent. You know, this class of 2015 has learned some important, and I would argue at times difficult decisions and lessons about leadership this year. And I do have some concerns about their parting views. But I am equally encouraged, and I think we can all take faith that they are well prepared for what they will encounter, because we have strong schools coming together with families, staff, faculty, administration, and board to prepare them to learn, how to navigate the world, and someday support their own families and hopefully make the world a little bit better for it. I think we should reserve our real concern for the class of 2027, these incoming students. What are we doing as a community to prepare them in the same way? Are we making the right decisions about school leadership and funding? Open enrollment and school funding is clearly not an easy issue. It's evidenced by past board meetings and, quite frankly, too much bold ink in the editorial pages and blogs. We have allowed a partial solution to the larger ebbs and flows of school enrollment to sidetrack what should be the real focus of our community conversations. We should continue to support open enrollment while working on the larger issue, and we should not decrease faculty and staff budgets in any way that compromise quality academics, arts, sports, and physical education. We need to make this strong school system stronger. Compromise the budget in the short term without a viable replacement strategy is a very slippery and steep slope. I know that the board administration are well aware of this challenge. You have the numbers, you've been looking at them for years. The rest of us only have to look 10 miles down the road from here to see our future. Decrease or eliminate open enrollment, compromise the budget and the quality of education, and soon we're going to have much bigger and more difficult questions to answer. Can we retain quality academics, arts, athletics, and the faculty and staff to lead them? Can we recruit staff and faculty of the same caliber when needed? Will families with preschool children move here instead of the suburbs and exurbs of other communities? And will home builders and developers have the interest and incentive to build new housing stock? Both those that preserve the quality of life many of us came here for, and those who will also attract new families to our community. Even with the choice, would open enrollment families have any interest in attending our schools? If we end open enrollment, hurt our academic budget, and watch the decline in the progress of this school district.
Thank you, Mike.
One more minute. The broader public, all of those outside our little box, the young families, those interested in growing business here, have a very artificial and polarized view of this community. There are two views. One that says nobody outside of this community is welcome. The other view is the view from the students that stood outside, 300 around the flagpole today. I hope we have the courage, especially this board, to put aside the emotions, personal agenda, and choose the latter, as demonstrated by our young adults today. Kids will live up to our expectations or down every time. Let us raise the bar even higher for the class of 2027. Thank you.
Blake, my interest is to give everybody a chance to speak. It'll take over 5 minutes. Captain Leavenworth? 5 minutes. Great, I just said.
You already did. And there are any other people who spoke before didn't take up 5 minutes. Sorry to interrupt you, but I wasn't going to take that. Kathy Leavenworth, 15306 Hemlock Point Road. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak this evening. All I wanted to say as far as open enrollment is concerned is that for several years, the board preceding this board and other members were very able to deal with the open enrollment issue. They looked at it. I think they did it in a very mature and methodical method of looking at each of the classes, how many students were in each class, and they determined how many students they needed to fill those classes. That went on for several years, and it seemed to work very well. I don't know why we cannot continue to do that. The one other thing that I'd like to point out to you, because I have heard that this board is considering curtailing open enrollment in certain classes. I know that we can do that if we have a full class, but the Ohio Revised Code, and I have a document here that you may want to see if you haven't read it, but it clearly says if the district accepts open enrollment students, it must accept students from all grade levels, including special education preschool. Districts cannot limit open enrollment to only certain grade levels. However, certain grades may reach the district's capacity levels. Just for your information. I don't even want to talk tonight. I've been dealing with open enrollment right now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
You know, I've lived in the community. I grew up in Newberry. We weren't allowed to come here. And I understand the issues that that school has and many of the neighboring Geauga County schools. I feel there's a place for open enrollment, limited numbers. This open enrollment, no open enrollment. I mean, I don't know where contiguous borders is coming in. Every single person that's talking, I feel like the even person at the bottom of the stairway. You know, I have a business here. I support the schools. I support the teachers. There was a walkout today. You know, is this how we want to conduct our schools, where the students get up at 1 o'clock, walk out, chant around the flagpole, they have signs in their car. A lot of kids left just to follow the leader. They didn't want to be one of the ones left out. I don't like that culture, and I don't like what I see going on. We have good kids here. Really, I think all of you are good kids. But we're expanding this, and it's getting out of control, and we're not going to keep having good kids. I'm done.
I think Gary Anderson. Darcy. I'm sorry, Carol.
I'm really short. Everyone hear me? I know I do. All right, I really don't have a lot, so don't worry again. I really just have a quick comment and request. There have been rumors that board members have been talking about not voting on this issue and abstaining. And you definitely have that right. However, this is such a hot issue and it's so important either way that I hope you all follow your hearts and do the job you promised to do. When you want to be a school board member, that means that you really, really want to help the kids, and it's up to you. Either way, just make a vote, especially if one of you doesn't do it, then you might have a tie. Or if three, whatever. But every single one of you really needs to vote. And otherwise you can't complain. But it really needs to be that way, in my mind and heart, for the best of the kids. So please, do the job you promised to do with Brad. make the decisions, easy and hard, to give our kids the education, the best education possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our remarks from the public. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to, we've got Bailey Communications here, Mr. Russo. You can introduce your folks. Just in regards to our own, get into too much explanation. But we've got some very antiquated phone systems, et cetera, in this district, and we're looking to make some improvements on those as well.
I passed out to the board members a copy of the PowerPoint presentation that Larry Bailey is going to make from Bailey Communications. This deals with the recommendation I'll be making to the board to move forward with the installation of VOIP telephony for our school district. We have a very aged telephone system here, and it's antiquated, needs replaced. It jeopardizes a number of things, and you'll see in Larry's presentation what today's updated technology can do for us.
I'm Larry Bailey with Bailey Communications. Started in educational technology in 1988. Working for Liga on the west side of Cleveland, which is the equivalent of LGCA they have on the east side. I was an on-site contractor there from about 1988 to 1998, and I saw the internet come into the school district. I was there at the beginning. I was the guy who actually went and connected the schools to the internet in about 35 school districts on the west side of Cleveland. I managed the firewall, saw all the applications for the internet education, and participated in a lot of that implementation in education. In 1998, I struck out on my own and started my company, Bailey Communications. Saw a need for design, installation, and maintenance of computer networks, infrastructure in the schools, and I started working with Bedford, Homestead Falls, and Brunswick schools in 1998. They were my first clients and still work with all of them today. In 2003, we expanded our offerings to include voice over IP. So probably everybody's heard the term voice over IP. It's basically using your phones over the internet, or using your phones, in this case, over your own private network within the school district. In 2003, we put in the first voice over IP network in the Bedford City Schools, about 600 phones. And today we still maintain that network for them. Since then, we've installed over several thousand phones in the area, in the schools and local government. Currently, we handle phone systems for the City of Warrensville Heights, Pepper Pike, City of Avon, Middleburg Heights. And they all rely on us for support. We actually support their dispatch, 911, offer 24/7 support on their phone systems. So we've been able to bring a lot of that reliability to the schools and implement these phone systems in the school districts. In 2006, we got into wireless as well. We've installed blanket wireless coverage in a lot of school districts in the area as well. So some of the school districts we work with you may be familiar with. Perry Local Schools, we installed their phone system and their computer network. In 2001, we put the first gigabit network infrastructure in Perry schools. And in about 2006, we put in their voice over IP phone system. Orange Schools, the same thing. We've done voice over IP for them. Bay Village Schools, Avon Schools, the City of Avon, Bedford, Amherst, Brunswick, Mentor, probably one of the largest school districts in the area, Homestead Falls in the city. Mercy Hospital, we handle their cabling for all their campuses. And we actually, over the weekend, just did a complete rework of the Great Lakes Brewery network on the west side of Cleveland. So we understand how critical phone systems are, network systems are, and we basically, again, built that into educational technology. We offer full voice over IP design, installation, and maintenance. We actually monitor the system 24/7. It alerts our technicians if anything goes wrong with it. Our technicians can remotely diagnose problems with it and repair them very quickly. Our full service maintenance also covers all moves, adds, and changes. So in the old days, with the existing phone systems you have, if you want to move an extension, you have to have somebody come out and actually move the phone. With the new voice over IP system, it's all programmable, and you can do that remotely. So that's all part of our full service. Every year, teachers move throughout the district. There's personnel turnover. We can handle all that from our office remotely, just with a simple email to our system. We offer all the cabling that needs to go with this. This is the before and after shot of Perry's computer room. When we first started working with them, you can see on the left, it was quite a few cables out of place and disorganized. And then when we were done with it, that's how it looks. So whenever we put a network in, we clean things up, which makes it easier for you to manage the network, easier to troubleshoot. So the most important aspect of a new network-based voice over IP system is improved communication within the district. Basically, safety and security is first and foremost now in a lot of the districts, and moving forward with a new phone system is the core of that. It allows you to communicate quickly, efficiently with staff in a multitude of ways. Some of the new features of the voice over IP, unified communications, that allows you to listen to your voicemails in your email box. So with a simple click on your smartphone, on your mobile device, on your computer, you can listen to your voicemails. It's particularly useful for teachers that are out during the summer. If you want to communicate with them, they can still at home through their email get their voicemails. Presence is another feature that comes with the new voice over IP system. What that means is that you have one extension in the district. So for people that move around the district or are in and out of their office, you call one number, it rings their cell phone and their desk phone at the same time. So you don't have to hunt them down on their cell phone or anything like that. It also comes with this client. You see on the left that's on your computer. Allows you to chat through your computer, through the phone system. You can do video calls with it. You can see the status of somebody, whether they're on the phone or away from their phone or unavailable. Extension mobility is a feature that's very useful for teachers that move throughout the district. They can simply log into a phone and it becomes their phone. And then shared line appearances for people like cafeteria, clinic workers, librarians that might move from one place to another in the day. They can have the same extension in both places without a problem. And then one of the biggest things is the safety and security aspect of the system. And I'll show you a short video on how voice over IP enhances that and ties into the phone system. Thanks.
Overhead paging system, and other communication methods to send audio and text broadcasts. Here are some of the many ways InformaCast can improve safety and efficiency in your school. There's an intruder on campus, and you need to lock down the school. Using InformaCast, you can send a live or pre-recorded message from a desk phone, mobile phone, or a dedicated panic button to your entire campus.
This is an emergency lockdown. Shelter in place. This is an emergency lockdown.
Notifying them of the emergency and automatically locking the doors. An accident occurs in the classroom, and the teacher calls 911. InformaCast detects 911 as the dial and triggers a broadcast to the office letting them know which classroom needs help so they can direct emergency responders to the right place when they arrive. You can manage school bells for your entire district from a single easy-to-use web interface with Informacast. When severe weather causes a 2-hour delay and you need to adjust the school bells accordingly, simply select which predefined bell schedule you would like to use and make this change with the push of a button. Everyday paging via both overhead speakers and Cisco handsets is easy with Informacast. This is Informacast live audio broadcast. You can broadcast to a paging zone as large as your entire campus or as small as a single classroom. Administrators enjoy the ease of use of the hands-free two-way intercom using Informacast with Cisco phones or Informacast-compatible IP speakers. Informacast helps you leverage the tools already in place at your school to improve efficiency and keep your staff and students safe. Contact SingleWire today to learn more about Informacast and why administrators and staff have made Informacast a must-have tool in their school.
So you can see some of the features that Voice over IP brings to the school district. The alerting when a 911 call goes out is invaluable. We've implemented that in a lot of districts. Basically, it allows emergency responders to know exactly where the call came and allows the district to know as well that a call went out. Very important. If there's a lockdown, it can also generate conference calls to all the administrators immediately so that everybody can be on the same page with what might be going on. Some of the advantages it gives is with the paging you have now, for instance, in a high school, if you send a page out, it goes out to everybody in the whole building because it's all one zone. So with this system, you can page to phones, and then if we tie it into an enhancement in the PA system, you can page to individual rooms, which could be an advantage during testing or certain instances where you only want to page it one way. So our company is a state-approved, state-term contract vendor. Bailey Communications, we're listed on the Cisco state term schedule. We have been for about 10 years, and we work very hard to stay on that. Your phone system basically will consist of 128 phones at the high school, 122 phones at the middle school and board office, 62 at Westwood, and 65 at Lindsay. We were asked by Mr. Russo to do a study. That's how we came up with this information. We basically looked at all your phone system needs currently and came up with this proposal. So to upgrade the entire system, which will also upgrade your network infrastructure, it'll provide UPS systems in the wiring closets. It's about $456,000 installed. Maintenance on it, if you go on a year-to-year, is $37,000 and then $31,750 if you get a 5-year contract. The whole system could be leased, so that's typically how a school district enters into this size of project. You could lease it for 5 years with a $1 buyout at the end, so that means at the end of that 5 years you can own the system for $1. And a lease on that would be approximately $32,000 per quarter for 5 years. And last but not least, if you were to look at your clock system, paging system, which is pretty aged, the phone system went in about 1996, I understand, when some renovations were done. It hasn't been changed much since then. Probably the PA system went in about the same time. So in order to update the clocks and the paging system, that would be a separate project. That one is about $435,000, which includes all the cabling, installation, and maintenance of that system. So that lease would be about $23,500 per quarter for 5 years. In closing, I think the VOIP project is definitely a step in the right direction. Every district that we've worked with that have done this have been very happy with it. It cuts down a lot of issues with your current phone system, provides some reliability, and also enhances safety and security, which is first and foremost right now. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. This time, Mr. Whaley, if you could come on up and present your technology report plan.
Director of Technology at WestGB Schools. One of the things I wanted to start looking at today was our computers and devices in WestGB. One of the things with my new position that I wanted to start looking at is our computers and devices. Previously, we had bought things singular, we bought them in large groups, without a replacement plan in place. One of the tasks that the board had given me and our superintendent had given me when I started this position was to start taking a look at an effective way to start replacing our devices, especially as we've gone to one-to-one. We're already finding that with some of our devices that we're having failures. We have a computer lab that needs to be replaced at almost every building. Some of these are classroom labs. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today about what we do in the technology department at WestGB, what we've done to analyze the direction that we need to go in, and review some of the options going forward for our district. Some of the goals of our technology department is to really start taking a look at the student experience. We want to make sure that our devices are updated. That includes the computers in the lab so that they're ready to be used anytime that the students wind up in the lab. We want some flexibility with it being very uniform in the experience for our students. So that way when teachers are instructing our students, they know the platform and the environment they're going to be in, but also our students do when they log in. They know how to get to the places that they need to go when they need to be there. So we're maximizing instructional time. It's not about instructing our students how to use the devices. They already know it because it's a familiar experience. We want this to be secure. We want to make sure that we're keeping up to date with our software so that when we have a secure environment, we don't have to worry about our students reaching a website, viruses being installed on our machines. We want to make sure that any of the information that's personal is protected. We also want to make sure that we're being budget conscious. That's very hard to do whenever we're dealing with this many people and this many devices. But we want to make sure that we're thinking about the best ways to make the best purchases that maximize the dollars for our district. We want to be aware of the hardware lifespan. We have a lot of different devices now. We have desktop computers, we have laptop computers, we have Chromebooks, we have iPads. All of those have different hardware lifespans. As you watching the media and the news today, you'll see how quickly, especially when we get into the one-to-one devices, those change every time you blink. It seems every quarter there's a new device out there. Devices become obsolete a lot quicker now. Our students know that as well because they go through new devices every time you turn around as well. We want to support the appropriate use and the benefits of technology in our classrooms. The one-to-one program is something that we started in WestGB with iPad carts, Chromebook carts between the elementary schools and the middle school and the high school. One of the things is we've been looking at them that we have to take a look at as well is our Windows devices in the labs and in the classrooms. We still have computers in the labs and the classrooms that are needed. Windows is an environment we still need to work with and consider in our school districts. Our labs are still being used in all the buildings. I've done a needs survey and I found that our teaching staff is still using the labs all the way through because of the fact that we still need to access Word and PowerPoint. We still need to be access certain websites that are Java-based that won't run on iPads or Chromebooks. Teachers are subscribing to websites that are strong in content for our students that are available only on those platforms. Which brings us to a problem. If we're continuing our one-to-one, we have to also consider our Windows devices and make sure that they're up to date, ready to be used, and that when a teacher goes into the lab, when the students go into the lab, they sit down at a machine that it's going to be working right away. One of the big problems we have right now is we have roughly about 500 computers throughout the district. A majority of them are Windows XP machines. That's out of date. It's at its end of life. And what that means is it's no longer being supported by Microsoft. That provides a variety of problems. The first problem is we aren't getting security updates when viruses come out. The other problem is, as software packages are being released that includes new browsers, they aren't able to be installed on our machines for our students to use. So it becomes, teacher finds a great website they want to use with their kids. Students are doing research projects. They want to go to web content. It won't open up for them. These are things that we have to be readily aware of. Also, our machines, because they're getting older, they're getting slower. There's experiences for both our teaching staff and our students when they go into the labs that these 3 machines work really fast. Machines in the row in front of them are much slower. So we have students who are having a variety of different experiences and not able to necessarily even complete the project that they started in the lab because they're having issues along the way. There's 2 ways to address this. We could buy 500 machines. The other option we have is to use virtual desktops. And this goes back to some of the budgetary issues I was talking about earlier. When we're taking a look at one-to-one, which is an expensive proposition already, we're going to start taking a look at how can we start addressing our labs and classroom computers in a way that is budget conscious. I want to introduce, joining me today is Eric Peterson from Logical Front. Eric's going to talk a little bit about VDI. And VDI is an opportunity that is a chance for us to not only save some money on our Windows machines, but also to add some wonderful functionality that is only going to increase our student and teacher experience.
Thanks for having me this evening, board. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm with a company called Logical Front. We're a Dell partner. We do this nationwide for schools around the country. Currently, we've worked with about 300 schools and delivered about 100,000 virtual desktops across the country. So I've been working with Sean, with Mr. White. He's vetted us out, looked at our company. So we have a video that we'll show you here in just a second. Possibly we're going to pull it up. But I want to talk to you a little bit about what virtual desktops are. Imagine those machines that are slower, that are in the labs. They're 3, 4, 5, 6 years old sometimes. The common thing would be to buy new machines and then have to take those machines, put a brand new image on them, make sure they have all those updated apps, and then keep those machines patched and make sure that all the patching is correct and everything is uniform. As you can imagine, you have to go through and do that on each and every machine in your labs. With VDI, what you do is you install a server data center. And all of those little boxes on top of the server, on top of that VDI, are little virtual desktops that are ready to go for the students. And those can be delivered to anything. Right now we're talking about Windows machines in the lab, but that Windows desktop can actually be delivered to an iPad, a Chromebook, a student's home machine. They could be on vacation, they need to do something, they can log in at their grandmother's computer and pull up the desktop that they see at the lab in school. So what we really talk about with virtual desktops is not bringing the student to the physical machine that they have to work on, but being able to take that lab and put it anywhere, anytime, in the place that that student needs. It's very similar to what you have in everyday computing, where you have any apps you need on your machine. One of the nice things too is you can have some cost savings there around applications. So if you have students that need Photoshop for a graphics department, let's say, instead of bidding a license for each lab machine that would need Photoshop, you can limit just a few licenses of that. And then whenever that student logs in and has a credentials that says, yes, they should get that Photoshop application, it's delivered to that machine that they're on. So there's huge cost savings around the number of licenses you need to carry on applications. Sean, could you go to the next slide for a second? What I want to do is, if we can pull up, let's pull up that video, Sean, and we'll show them to just a minute. This is a district we did down in Texas. It's a case study by Dell that shows a little bit of what we can do for school district virtual desktops and what Mr. Willis is trying to accomplish here.
I like shaping the future. I like seeing the light bulbs go off when they get a concept. I like when maybe they're struggling at first and then oh, I get it now.
Our school district is a very diverse one. We are growing at about 400 to 500 kids a year. We are one of the fastest growing school districts in the state of Texas. With regard to information technology, the district was moving with the help of Dell towards this idea of virtualization throughout the district to the idea of interconnectivity 24/7.
Well, when I took over the technology department, one of the biggest issues was we had a lot of antiquated systems as far as end-use clients, PCs, things of those nature. We were looking at about a $6.5 million requirement to replace all of those older systems. We wanted options, so we approached Dell. We are a Dell shop. Dell brought in a company called Logical Front that showed us how to use virtual desktop infrastructure that allows basically to use the older systems by removing the hard drives and streaming the image out to the client rather than just having it all reside natively there in the classrooms.
We were skeptical at first, wondering about the end-user experience, but the end result was better than what we could have expected.
Teachers, students, and administrators can access their virtual desktop from anywhere that they have internet access. The advantage is to them is now they manage their time the way they want.
I do lesson plans from home, I do most grades from home.
No matter where I am in the building, I can log in and get to my desktop if I need it. I like to integrate technology throughout my daily lessons. We have a variety of games they play to practice math, practice their reading, practice spelling.
We play computer games that let us learn. We use it to do math and we use it to learn Spanish. I learn fast math when you figure out the problem as fast as you can. It's really good.
And then when we first started mapping everything out, we knew that we were going to have to invest on the back end as far as our network infrastructure.
They use a combination of provisioning services, which is a Citrix product, and desktop. They use Dell Logic Storage, Dell PowerEdge servers and blades. Power Connect switching is used for the back end using full 10 gig fabric. With Dell, it truly is a soup to nuts end-to-end platform.
So the top benefits for us obviously were upfront costs. We were talking about a $2.5 million project versus a $6.5 million project. The $2.5 million project works across the board. The $6.5 million only dealt with the legacy systems. The other added benefit was ease of management.
Whenever we need to re-image, we basically go into a console, we right-click on any disk copy, and we select all the clients and paste it right on there, and we can re-image probably 300, 400, 500 clients within a matter of seconds.
One of the huge advantages here is that, let's say that there are kids out there that necessarily don't have the money to have a nice PC at home. They don't have to. They can have a 12-year-old PC, log into the system, and all the processing power is done on the back end.
It's greatly transformed the way that we do business because now you are able to spend more time learning, growing, collaborating with your team.
I've seen productivity increases just by the fact that we are connected, the processing power is fast, and we can use the money we would have otherwise used on other needs within the district.
Technology in the classroom is very important, mostly because it's very engaging for the kids. They're doing PowerPoints, they do presentations, they are doing research on the computer.
We started a new project. We're researching tropical rainforest. We've been using the computer for that, and we've been going online looking at pictures and information.
The best part about teaching is the kids. I just love the kids. I love to see the excitement on their face. And if I can get them excited about learning, then my day is complete.
So I just wanted to show you that a little bit. Obviously, your project isn't nearly that size. What Mr. Whalen's looking at is bringing in virtualization on a basis that you can handle on a smaller set of machines and need it right away.
The Wall of Love started as a community art project. We thought it was a good reminder of the universal design philosophy. It's easy.
Thanks, Sean. So what we wanted to show you is a little bit of the cost savings of going with virtual desktops versus just buying those PCs and doing that. And what we look at here is the cost savings of buying PCs of about $200,000. For the virtual desktops, we can use the PCs that are already there, add the server databases that need to come in, do the services, everything's in all one package, and we can do that for about $147,000. So the first year we would save the district about $50,000. Now the cost per PC is really what people look at a lot, and that comes out to be somewhere above $700 for the physical PCs versus $547 to transform into virtual desktops. What happens is once you get that server infrastructure in to handle those virtual desktops and to allow access from outside into any lab anywhere, now you're really just adding licenses and maybe a single server to add more virtual desktops onto that. So the first amount would be $270 this year. Next year would be the other half of that $500, basically, about 230 machines. So what happens is that cost per virtual desktop comes way down. So instead of being $547, now you're only $334. And that continues to decline as you add more virtual desktops to the system because you're using the same infrastructure to deliver more PCs to the students. It's a really effective way to keep the cost down. Plus on the management side, Sean and his team don't have as much to do because they're not racing around to every desktop all the time trying to patching and imaging and keeping it all up to date with all of the features. There's a single point to do that. So it's a big benefit on the management side. Sean, I'll turn it back over to you and finish up here. Thank you.
When you mentioned the time savings too, one of the areas that I found my greatest needs in, I get emails, texts, phone calls regularly from our teaching staff on needs they have as far as using the devices in their classroom. That's where they need me. They need me in their rooms. They need me dealing with them and supporting them on initiatives that they're doing in their classrooms. What are we doing with these machines, not just dealing in the management of the machines. That's really the critical part of what we do here in education. We want to make sure that our students are using them, our staff is able to use them, as frustration-free as possible. There's no way to 100% take care of that. That's a reality of working with technology. But the idea with you guys provides an opportunity to take care of our Windows problem in a way where we can start looking at our one-to-one. The one-to-one is what led me here. What happened was we as a district have been aggressively with board support and with community support, looking at one-to-one in recent years, bringing iPads and Chromebooks into our districts and carts with the intention of eventually having our students each having access to a device. Because of that, I guess I was always under the impression that our lab use would shrink. What I'm seeing is the opposite. I'm seeing a lot of our labs being used in conjunction with the one-to-one devices. I'm thinking of a 5th grade project I saw where they had their iPads in one hand and they had the Windows desktop in another hand because there are things that they can only do in a Windows environment that our students need access to. And there's certain classrooms right now that are currently have desktop computers in there for classroom use, and the programs that they're running on them will not run on a Chromebook, they will not run on an iPad. They need to be run through the Windows environment. One of the advantages of VDI that I like is, when I mentioned the labs, if the lab's being used from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, but 11 to 12 is open, we would have the flexibility after we get the infrastructure in place and we're aware of how to use it. I can start meeting with teachers and telling them, hey, you want to set up a lab for your classroom? You want to bring it in for your iPads? You want to bring it in for your Chromebooks? For the teacher that's like, I can't go down to the lab, but I would like to run that program that runs Flash or Java on my iPad or my Chromebook, we can do that now. We save money, but we've also added functionality, which to me is a double bonus. You know, the fact that we're already saving money from this, but now those labs are being able to use throughout our buildings any way we want to. So that to me is a definite plus with looking at DEI as a solution for this. We're being fiscally responsible, but we're also adding some functionality for our students, which I think is great. One of the things that in the future that we didn't have a chance to talk about is when it comes to actually replacing our virtual desktops, thin client machines are much more cost effective. If we have to go to thin clients, they're about $360 a device, as opposed to purchasing full-blown desktop because our servers will be doing all the work. Plus, we've also in recent years had a lot of opportunities to get donations from outside projects. Those donated computers now, we don't have to worry about the speed of them. They now can instantly be put into our structure. We can take some of the older machines that are broken, replace them with the donations that come in, and now they will run the same as other machines in the lab and the classrooms because of the fact that they're using VDI. We're actually sending that image straight to them. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, now that we talked about the VDI, I want to talk about the one-on-one. We have 3 different areas that we're doing one-to-one currently. We have one-to-one at the elementary, one-to-one at the middle school, and one-to-one at the high school. One of the things that we haven't done with this in the past is start looking at replacement. We buy new technology, but we don't put in a cycle where we actually have a replacement cycle. So I started taking a look at the elementary buildings, and through the help of the principals and the teaching staff and our administrative team, we started taking a look at what devices we want to be using in the classrooms. The 5th grade has expressed this year, along with the principals and our administrative team, to start looking at Chromebooks at 5th grade. The idea behind looking at Chromebooks at 5th grade would be building towards the middle school and the high school that have Chromebooks. Being that they're the oldest students, they want to start linking 5th grade closer to the direction they're going to be going in 6th grade and beyond. The advantage of the Chromebooks are they're $100 cheaper than tablets. So when we are replacing our full 5th grade with Chromebooks and then taking those older devices and pushing them down to our younger students, we're actually replacing them at a lower cost because they run $279 device licenses, whereas our iPads are $379 for the same device. So it's an advantage to savings on that end. In the chart that I put up there, and I will make sure that you all have copies of this, I also took a look at replacing 4th and 5th grade with iPads in the 2nd year and 3rd year of this cycle of replacement. One of the things with the numbers on there, I'm taking into account the fact that with Lindsay, each year we have 1 less class. So because of that, our iPad numbers look the same as our Chromebook numbers right now, but it's because we actually will have 1 less class at both of those buildings through the cycle of replacement. They would be also replaced with currently iPad Airs. That's their bottom line. We currently, throughout the district, have iPad 2s. Every one of our iPads is an iPad 2, with the exception of 1 carton of iPad 1s that we still have at Lindsay. The iPad 2s have been discontinued. So our entire iPad inventory is discontinued. That's really important for us to know because the reason why I have a 3-year cycle of replacement on here, as you'll see when I go to the middle school and high school, these devices, because of the fact that they are the lower end of the devices and they are a consumer platform, they tend to be replaced very quickly. Those are the things that we end up seeing on the news that they replace them. The problem on our end where that becomes an issue is their operating systems are no longer supported. So Apple's still supporting the iPad 2s right now. We're good on those. We need to start making preparations, though, to gradually replace them so we don't wind up with useless devices. We're also having more failures with those devices that have been around the longest. Our original Fairmont Minerals was nice enough to give us a grant to begin with. Some of those devices are starting to fail. It's time to start looking at replacing them so we have devices that we can count on for instruction for our students. The plan that I would have would be to shift gradually the carts to the younger grades. So as we replace 5th grade, we would start filling in our 1st grade. There'd be a chance to get them to go 1-to-1. When I do that, because of the fact of the failures that I mentioned, I would make sure at both buildings to have a cart that's available to start taking care of some of the failing devices. So that way we don't have any downtime for our students that are already 1-to-1. We are expanding our 1-to-1 to our younger students, but we're still leaving some inventory in place. As breakages come in, students are not without an instructional tool. We're currently running into an issue because we are exactly 1-to-1, where when a device goes down, we don't have a device for that student. We start having sharing, which takes us away from our 1-to-1 program. So I want to make sure that we have extra devices in place with our older devices that we can use to fill that in as we move forward. The following year, we would then take care of kindergarten through the same method. And then the year after that, we would start having extra devices that we can start looking at selling off for whatever the market value is at the time. So we have some options there. And that we would start taking a look at as we get closer to that time. What I did with the middle school and high school is I started taking a look at current enrollment and I divided it in thirds. Because of the fact that that would be a fluctuating number, we have to reevaluate that every year. But the reason why we have to do that is we currently have Chromebooks at both the middle school and high school. Those Chromebooks are going to have to, by year 3 of this, start hitting a replacement cycle. We want to make sure that we have devices that we can count on one-to-one for our students and start putting ourselves in a replacement cycle, not just buying carts and then not having a replacement opportunity. So in the model that I'm showing you there, there's an opportunity for us each year to constantly be refreshing our devices. We would fill out the rest of our classrooms. After we're done going one-to-one, we might want to start looking at is grade level bands in year 4, where we start replacing in 5th grade, that becomes that student's Chromebook. 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. 9th grade, they would get a new device. 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. The device now becomes attached to the student. It is no longer attached to a cart, if that makes sense. That becomes their device. They start using it throughout the day. For the teachers, that becomes an added benefit because the students start knowing the device backwards and forwards. It's less instruction on the teacher on how to actually use the device. That's where your students start showing you how to use the device too. And there's a benefit to that. I consider myself a techie. When I was a 3rd grade teacher and we had an iPad cart in my classroom that we shared between the 3 classrooms, my students were showing me things all the time. And that's a wonderful benefit on the teaching side of it, to have our students start being an interactive part of that. I did the same numbers for the high school, where I took a look at the current high school enrollment, and their numbers are going to be higher because of the fact that we've got 4 grade levels instead of 3. But this would finish off our one-to-one, but also begin our replacement strategy at the high school as well, which we need to do at this point. I put together for you, and I'll share this with all of you, a summary of what this would look like with the VDI, but also broken down by the elementary, the middle school, and the high school. One of the nice parts is when you take a look at the VDI on it, you see that we start off with the cost on the first year, and that cost starts to shrink down every year because of the VDI. Our desktop computers that we still need to, in the classrooms, take care of, start to become more cost effective, and some of that money goes towards our one-to-one, which is really what I'm going for there, to try and get money back. So that way we can start using it towards the one-to-one program. Do you have any questions?
Explain to me how this helps, that the teachers have very, very old machines. And I hear what you're saying in a lab, but how does that help them in their classroom with the machine that's ancient?
With VDI, what we took a look at was doing a 2-year cycle. The first cycle would be to take care of our labs, the worst machines in the labs, the XP machines. The second year, we would look at finishing off the rest of the machines in the lab, plus we also have enough licenses for every classroom. That's for a teacher's computer. What we would do is, in certain circumstances, such as classrooms with smart boards, they need to have the most updated physical machine that we have in our labs. So we already have some Windows 7 machines that are in our labs that are speedy machines that we're going to take and shift out to the classrooms. Because of the fact that we're hooking up the smart boards to those machines, we would need, because of the peripheral, we would want a strong physical machine for that. For the rest of the classrooms, if they don't have a smart board, but they have a projector, for example, they can use a VDI machine. We would obviously want to put one of the better machines in there because if the teacher wants to access the local machine, they can do that. But they would be able to access the VDI, which then takes all of the working power off of the machine. They also don't have to worry about, I'm in the middle of instruction. I have opened up a website. Now my computer is behaving weird. Because of the fact that we're pushing a stable image to the machine, every time that they log in, they will get that fresh, stable image every time. They can focus on instruction. They can personalize it. They can say bookmarks. They can do all the things that we want them to be able to do from it. But they don't have to worry about things like I installed this web browser helper on my machine, and now it's behaving really slow. Speaking as a former teacher, our day is very fast-paced. You click things very quickly because you want to get it up on the screen for your students. You're not so worried about reading every little thing that's in front of you. Because of that, our machines get bogged down very quickly. This takes a lot of that worry out of their hands and gets them to what we really want them doing, instruction, and not having to worry about that. But there is a license with the plan in the second year. There was the plan to make sure that there would be a license for every teacher computer, so that way every classroom would have access to this as well. So that's what the 3-year plan is about. Sure.
What do we get in terms of software? So, do we get automatically this price? Do we get creative suite? Do we get some education software? What exactly do we get?
What we would get with that, we would get what's called VMware, which would be the server software that we would be using for this. We would be looking at, our numbers right now are if we bought individual Microsoft licenses for each of those machines. One of the things that Eric and I are going to take a look at is there an advantage as a district for us to purchase a Microsoft district license where we have a cost savings because of that? So that could bring the cost down. As far as what you're mentioning, creative suites, that does not come with this. What this would allow us to do, though, is we can actually make software decisions based on need. So if what you're mentioning, let's use a high school class, for example. A high school class needs a certain creative software. It's only that class that needs it. They're going to use it all day, every day, throughout the year. We don't have to purchase 200 copies of that. We can purchase that specifically for that class. We can make very targeted software purchases. We can make a virtual machine just for that class that has that software on it. Those students then would be able to, if they had a homework assignment in that software, be able to access that not only in class, but because of the fact that we would have 500 VDI licenses, we could designate a certain amount of those licenses as licenses that can be used at home and easy. So it wouldn't outfit our whole district with that functionality, but we can start keeping track of how many of these licenses are we using during the day. When we're not here at school, we can use them. So now that software that you're mentioning, not only do we purchase it for our building, but now teachers can say, boy, it would have been great if I could make that a homework assignment. I can.
So what is the idea? Are they work on a mainframe?
It's on a server.
Okay, so it's on a server. And all of the actual work is being done there rather than on the tops of the computers?
Correct. And what ends up happening is it extends the life of those computers because anytime you've heard a computer running, especially when it's doing like a high graphics operation, a big program operation, you start hearing the fans kick up, lots of noise in the room. That's because a lot of work's being put on that machine. That's also where the wear and tear comes in. That's where the lifespan of the machine starts to lessen. Because those machines won't actually be doing the work anymore, they're very basic machines, we're actually extending the life of those machines. We can replace fans in them and power supplies. We don't need to worry about it. It's the fastest machine. It just needs to have an internet connection that can connect to our server that does all the work. So because of that, that's why I said if we get donations, those can be used to replace some of the older machines that are failing. But the ones that we've had for a while that are in great condition, as long as we're taking care of the fans and keeping the machines clean and operating, they will operate like a brand new speedy machine. And it ultimately will extend the life of those actual physical machines.
What's the capacity of those servers? Obviously, if you've got 400 students using it at one time, when is it used?
Well, that's why right now with our start, we're looking at our labs in a very contained. So the numbers that we are based on 500 machines. It would be in 2 phases. They would take care of all of our labs in a 2-year cycle. It would also provide a teacher computer in every classroom. Now, when I mentioned the lab licenses, we may find that certain labs that we're using, because we have the ability to sign them out, become obsolete, where we don't actually need the physical lab anymore. Those licenses are being used more virtually. So when it comes to machine replacement, if we don't replace those machines, we start using that capacity. If we find what you're saying, that we have a lot more students that are using them than we realized, and we want to grow the capacity of it, we can add on those servers, and we could increase the VDI. I'm shooting conservatively right now because our goal was to fix our labs. The functionality you're mentioning is a bonus. If we start using that functionality more down the road, after 3 years of looking at this, we can have a different conversation where we say, look at what our students are doing with this, we should expand it. There's an opportunity to grow. For right now, we're looking at 500 licenses for the purposes of fixing the lab problem.
Well, expanded to the whole district, will that eliminate the need for labs then? Will this work on, say, Chromebooks? Will the software work on iPads? Is it the kind of thing that you think labs are?
It could. It could. That would depend on our instructional use of it, which is why we're going conservative with it at first. We're looking to see how our teachers actually use it. One thing we know right now is that's concrete. Our teachers are still using our labs. That's why the numbers that we're looking at here are about making sure our labs work now. We're also addressing the classroom teacher computer problem that we have, which we know is an issue as well. Out of that, could we along the way find that the labs are obsolete? Maybe. That's something we'll have to address when we get there. The flexibility of these licenses are, if we find the labs are obsolete, these licenses now are not obsolete. They can be used anywhere throughout the district. They can be used as continual sign-out labs. They can be designated specific classrooms. We may expand it later to use them with iPads and Chromebooks throughout all the machines. But we're not at that point yet, but we could do that.
Which is along the lines of, when you buy books from a certain publisher, you just get that little link to get all the books in the world. So if we were at the point where we were at a deficit, we have to save money, what's the harm of saying to our students that, well, you can't access these websites, I'm sorry, but you can't access these ones. In other words, we're in a sense saying, yeah, we have limited ability to access the entire world of the internet that you can access. Would our teachers be able to teach it in those constraints? And would they reintegrate their curriculum to work within those constraints?
Nowadays, one of the problems that I'm finding as I meet with teachers is the issue of resource. They're constantly asking for access to resource. The internet really is the place for resource nowadays. And the problem is there's a lot of resource on the internet, and for our teachers that becomes a struggle because they have to spend their time going through the resource, finding good resource. When they find an effective resource that they're really happy with, but then they get to work and they find out that they can't access it with their students, that becomes a huge problem, and it puts our students actually at a deficit because they can't access. Most of the emails that I get from staff that are frustration are because they can't access something, not because they can. So that's becoming a big problem. I've had this year multiple emails from staff at all grade levels with, I can't access this website on a Chromebook because it runs on Java. I can't access this website on my classroom computer because I can't install the newest web browser or the newest version of Java on it. It's usually web helpers that they can't use. So that would be where I would think the harm would be we're now restricting and keeping our teachers from resources we can use from our students.
How's Google's work at expanding the computers for the school application? It's got a lot of publicity on our press about how it expands and how much more we can try to pick up that market.
One of the things that they added this year is Google Classroom, which we've done PE. The board has supported doing more after-school professional development like we did last year. And one of the sessions that we did was Google Classroom, and we did 3 sessions of it. And the staff turnout was amazing. But not just the staff turnout, the amount of emails I got from staff members who couldn't attend, who wanted to know how to use Google Classroom in their classroom. And actually, Mr. Kish and I were talking about rolling out after school at a staff meeting a presentation on Google Classroom for teachers that weren't able to attend. Google Classroom is a way for teachers to deliver assignments paperlessly to students. It also gives them a chance to turn in assignments and create assignments that way. So Google is continuing to expand that. In the time since Classroom's been out, Google has actually added multiple features that a teacher requested, and they've only been out since August. So the fact that they're doing aggressive updates show that they have